Thank you everyone to give me the occasion to talk about La noble science des joueurs d'épée, which is a source from the 16th century. To explain why I decided to research La noble science des joueurs d'épée is I wanted to exercise staff fighting from the 16th century. And I just find a source in French. I was like, oh, good, it's I will a source that I can understand it because it's not in German. So I tried to use the source for learning staff fighting from the 16th century. It didn't work. Didn't work. Then I wondered what was the purpose of this Middle French treatise, which is a translation from a German treatise, like a German language treatise. And La Noble Science was also printed in Antwerp, which is in the Low Countries, so technically a Dutch city. It didn't just, it was too strange. I had to make a little research. So I will address in my conclusion my attempt to find the purpose of the treatise. So, La Noble Science looks like that. It's in quarto little booklet, 36 folios, which are regular. In this one, we have several prints. I will address that later. It was printed in 1538 in Antwerp by Willem Forsterman, or Guillaume Forsterman, it depends on which, if you taking the French part, which was a really renowned printer. He printed about 400 different books in titles in his life, so it was really a very good printer, very established printer in Antwerp. It is referenced in the Nijhoff Kronenberg, which is the reference book for prints in the Netherlands. So it lists the most known prints. It describes fighting techniques on foot with various weapons without armor. And it is a traduction of André Bauernfeind, Ergründung ritterlicher Kunst der Fechterei, which was printed in 1516 in Vienna. And the lithographies, so the illustration you see on the screen, are copies of which we can find in Bauer find. It's not the printer didn't buy the lithographies from the other printer. He copied. He asked another wood print maker to make again the lithographies. So codicological aspects. There are first. We told me that there were six known prints of La Noble Science. Problem is that one of them, the one in Louvain, is actually like a collection of photographies from the print that is in London. So that brings it down to 5 known prints. I consulted the one in Paris, the Rothschild. It is considered the right one because the others have some problems with quills that are inversed, so or bifolios that are inversed. So I checked that, and also I conclude that the Rothschild is the right one. I consulted the Wolfenbüttel one, but only in scans, and the problem that the scans are also have problems, so I had to complete with the Paris one, and also I used the scans from the Louvain, which are the the London one, so it's like I consulted the both. But I only consulted physically the Paris one. There is one in Rotterdam I didn't have the occasion to see, but maybe, and also the Oxford one I didn't have the occasion to see, but maybe one day. So, about dimensions, it's a little booklet. It's 20 centimeters width and 14.8 high. It's the image and the text are about the same size. That's the Paris one. It's quite accented on the right, and text and image take the most of the page. We have a little, not so much margin. Also, the paper quality, that was my biggest problem, because I didn't have a lot of comparison with other books. For me, the question was: is the paper quality poor, or is it normal for the time? After consulting the Egonolf that is here, which is also in a print that was a translation from Bauer Find. They share the same paper quality, so for me it's more like it's not a real poor quality. It's regular for the time, but for like books that are not expensive. It's like very mass consumption book. So we can see that it's not a luxury book. It's like it's a book that is not expensive. That's the biggest. That's the most complicated part. It's the comparison between every print. So on the left, you have 3 prints from La Noble Science, and on the far right, you have the print from Bauer Find. I used the typology for the lithographies used by Matthias Bauer because it permitted me to make comparisons between the two treatises. And I saw that in the La Noble Science there are groups of text image that are inversed. It's the orange and yellow colors. We can see that between each treatise there is always quite systematically an inversion between the group of text and image. The groups aren't broken. The techniques are always related to the right image, but it's the place of the group text image in the treatise that is inversed between the two treatises. And also we can see that there is the suppression of 2 iconographies in La Noble Science in comparison with Bauer Find. My hypothesis is that the Forsterman wanted to suppress 2 iconographies to keep the regular in quarto format. As we can see, if we add the 2 missing iconographies, we have the beginning of an other quill that will have only 1 folio. So it's I think he chose to just suppress 2 of the iconographies to keep the regularity and to make economies. So, printing in Antwerp, so that will be the more contextual analysis. Antwerp is in the first half of the 16th century city big enough for printing capitals. There are a lot of capitals available for printing. Printing is is an expensive industry. So you need to have an amount of capital that is sufficient. Also, it had enough exportation possibilities. It was quite centered in Europe. It is still quite centered in Europe. And the exportation occasions were there for a good development of the industry. And also a cheap woodcut production. So Forsterman could have easily gotten the new lithographies from the local production. Also, we also see an appearance of a standardized vernacular language because of the exportation. If you want to export in a certain language area, like German language area or French language area, you have, if you want to make the most profit, you have to get a language that is understandable by the most people. So you try to make the most common version of a language. That is something that appeared also with the researchers that studied the more global context of printing in Europe, the appearance of vernacular language, and standardized vernacular language. Also, page layout, there are also shorter paragraphs, clear writing, and often images for illustration memorization. So that is also what we can find in the broad prints, in the most of the prints that come from Antwerp and from the other great cities of printing. And also Antwerp is specialized in international and multilinguistic printing. It's why I say international is that the exportation was also very important in Antwerp. How to say that? The printers weren't only looking for the local market, also for the market abroad. Like Forsterman printed for the markets in England, in Denmark, in France, also in the lowlands, and also in Germany. So it was Antwerp was one of the main cities of getting prints through Europe. And also multilinguistic printing, as I said, some printers were really specialized in just translating and getting prints abroad. So, La Noble Science as a printed book. So the page layout of La Noble Science is conformed to what we see in other books that were printed in Antwerp. Here we have a book about it's a religious book. You can see that the typography is the same. The page layout also is the same. Here we have left we have the first page, the first text page of La Noble Science. We can also the signs before the paragraphs are the same, and it is a typography that was developed in the 16th century in Antwerp. It's a typical Antwerpese typography. So, what are the fencing elements in both treatises? So, La Noble Science is a translation of André Bauernfein's Ergründung ritterlicher Kunst der Fechterei. On André Bauernfein, we know that he was a Freifechter in addition of being a bodyguard for Bishop Matthäus Lang von Fellenburg. Freifechter is a free fencer. He had the license to teach fencing to other persons. He also mentions his students in his treatise, so we can argue that he knew how to fence in the 16th century, which is mostly a fencing of civil fencing. In this case, so fencing for competition and fencing for guides. Also, his treatise is for example, the sword part is a collection of multiple texts. It compiles the verses of Johannes Lauer, also texts from André Lignitzer and Martin Hunsfeld. I won't go very deep in that because it's not the subject of this presentation. The iconographical construction belongs to the medieval tradition of illustrating a unique key moment of the technique. That's when we oppose with later illustrating tradition of using the image as a pedagogical tool, which can be where you get more information than just one key moment, like with geometry, with multiple positions that are following. Also, the treatise may have been used as a complement to the master's lesson, but that's also discutable. That's we don't have a definitive answer. So, between the text and image relation in both treatises, because La Noble Science doesn't break the image and text relation, I had to tell a bit about it. As we can see, that's the most visible in the staff part. In the sword part or in the messer part, it's not that systematic, but a bit strangely, for the staff part, it's really systematic. So the little figure on the left character always takes the initiative and starts the first sequence every time. Then, after one or two techniques, the right character gains the superiority in the situation instead of the left one, and allows another sequence. It's so in the image you have multiple paths possible from the image, as you have each time one character that takes the superiority on the another. Problem is that the image can't work without the text. It's really that the text-image relation can't be broken. Otherwise, we don't understand anything. So, what is the fencing tradition in the lowlands? Because we have seen that Bauernfeind in Vienna Bauernfeind around Vienna was part of a fencing tradition. Does the lowlands have a fencing tradition? And yes, they had. Since the 15th century, there is the gathering of fencers in guilds of Saint-Michel, St. Michael. Also in Antwerp, we know that there is the foundation of a guild of St. Michael in 1488. Also, that's what Reinier van Noort and Bert Gewaard have also found in the archives in different cities in the lowlands is the mentions of Scholen in Ghent and Joueurs de l'épée à deux mains in Tournai. That's interesting because when we have a treatise that is called La noble science des joueurs d'épée ou joueurs d'épée, it's really interesting to see that even in the French language, practitioners did call themselves joueurs d'épée. There is a decrease of guilds implication at the end of the 15th century, probably because of the use of mercenaries and also political local implications. But the guilds do not, however, disappear and are more inbound with a competition tradition of fencing. Still, there is no trace of use of fighting books from the guilds. There is no there is no citation of use of the fighting books by the practitioners. That's also my problem was find an owner or find a public for this treatise, but finding a real link between the treatise and the public. One of the print may have a known owner in the object of I don't really see well. It's Hans Jakob Reyhing from Augsburg. There is on the right image. There is I don't know if it's like kitchen Latin or if it's kind of an ancient Italian, because yeah, it's like a bit a mix between Italian and Latin. But he mentions that he wrote this paragraph in 1547. He also mentions his name on the recto of the same page, and also at the end of the treatise, below the conclusive image, also with an other location, Hans Jakob Reyhing, demeurant in Lille, that lives in Lille. So we have multiple origins. That's one origin and one location of living. So I dig a bit in Hans Jakob Reyhing history. I don't know what was his occupation. Maybe if we dig in the archives in Augsburg or Lille, we may find something. But the Reyhing family was linked to the Meurting family in Augsburg in 1522. We know that one of the Meurting representatives, Johannes Meurting, which was a bishop, was in Antwerp in 1538-1539 as a money changer for the Habsburg. Also, Meurting was made bishop by the Cardinal Matthias Lang von Vellenburg in 1536, and Cardinal Matthias Lang, who also employed André Bauernfeind. So, for me, it's mostly coincidence. I had to still address it, but yeah, it's really strange that there is no direct link to know why, if the print of Bauernfeind traveled with Meurting to Antwerp, or how it how he traveled with this lineage. One of another theory is that La Noble Science was made for the book market in Lille by Willem Forsteman, and Hans Jakob Reyhing bought it in 1547 or maybe earlier, and wrote his name in the book. So, for conclusion, in summary, it is not a perfect translation of La Noble Science is not a perfect translation of die Ergründung der Schöpfung der Verstei. It is it's not a luxury book. It's not after discussion in this conference and seeing the book of Egonolf. For me, it's not a luxury book, but it's not the poorest quality of paper. So it's more for the mass market for Antwerp, or for the mass market of books. It's a typical Antwerp print in form. So for me, it's more part for it's more to be seen as just a printed book than really a fighting book, because La Noble Science reuses only the most efficient parts of Bauer-Feind pedagogical system. Also on Bauer-Feind system, Bauer-Feind in his treatise mentioned 12 lessons. He also added the verses of Lichtenauer. He had also the well-made introduction and conclusion, which all were discarded in La Noble Science. And also, it is not explicitly bound to an armed guide or martial practice, but it is printed in the context of an already existing armed guides. So, for me, Forsteman probably saw commercial opportunity in translating a treatise in a favorable martial context. From the owner indications, I have emitted two theories, which I said, but for me it's the second one that is the most probable in what we know for now, and because of the quality of the printing in the context. For me, it is more a product of mass consumption in the book market than a book tailored to specific practitioners. Thank you very much. No, it's a landscape format.
But do you change?
I don't know if we see it.
Is the binding on the small side or on the long side of the book?
It's.
I can see it's the long side.
Yeah, it's the long side. It's on the long side of the book. You draw the pages like that to see to go in the book. So yeah, it's like a bit of flip book, or don't know really how to. It's a really peculiar way to put the.
That's very interesting, because I think that's a cheaper way to produce a book.
Yeah.
The Bauer-Feind book is the same.
Yeah.
Quarter format, but it is a landscape printed and bound.
Yeah.
So you change the sides
Yeah.
on the small side. Pages. Flip pages. Yeah, you flip pages on the smaller side. So I think this is an aspect of a more expensive production way. But
okay.
In 2016, I published an article in the AP and using them more times. So that's interesting
Yeah.
because I think we have two different printers which found two different ways to produce cheaper, more or less the same kind of book in some
Yeah.
different ways. So it's
Yeah,
really not a question.
or maybe it's more, yeah, or it can also be in a printing, not habit, but in it was the printing tradition that made them make the same choice.
That's interesting.
Further questions? No, then.
Just one. Can you flip the slide with the part 9?
Which one?
Picture.
This one?
It says Krakow. Is it only in Krakow? Because the number looks like Glasgow.
Oh, may have. I don't remember. Krakow, yeah, yeah, that's what I found.
I was just hoping that